What's up? Welcome in on this Thursday, a little late. I guess that's 2 days in a row that we're going to throw the delay a game flag on ourselves. But either way, we're here. Lots of stuff to talk about on this Thursday, so appreciate you spending some time around your lunch hour, maybe on your duck out early from work hour here with us, with me specifically. We've got some fun stuff coming up on the show, too. Again, last night, those of you that joined us, we think we have the technical issues worked out, but I guess we'll find out next week. Plenty of stuff going on. Feel free to comment along if you're watching along. We appreciate you. Follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show everywhere but Snapchat, because we're not 12 and Snapchat sucks, as TJ likes to say. But plenty of stuff. We've got a little college football Satur-Lay as we typically drop down on this Thursday for you. We've got the World Series headed to the 6 for number 6. And why that number is very, very important if you're a Toronto sports fan. Also, Thursday night football headed to South Beach tonight, and the return of Lamar Jackson. And the Ravens, who I pounded my fist on the table the other day and said they will guarantee that they go to the postseason. Why? Well, there's a couple reasons for that. We'll get into those also. But just a fantastic night last night. Fantastic series. Regardless of, I know Dodger fans are going to say it sucks. They're probably still trying to get out of the parking lot. You'd think at some point we'd fix that issue, but whatever. Going back to Toronto, again, as we said last night on the program, first time in Major League Baseball history that the season will have started outside of North America. Outside of the United States. Sorry, Canada. Outside of the United States and end outside of the United States. Pretty fascinating stuff. That building tomorrow night in Toronto is going to be absolutely insanity. Absolute insanity tomorrow night. I can't wait to see it. I'll be tossing out candy to the neighborhood kids. Maybe Kyler Murray. Wouldn't be able to tell the difference anyways. But you damn sure better believe I will have... Heck, if I could wheel a TV in the driveway and pass out candy, I would. Here you go. Here you go. It's a bunch of no-look passes. I really can't wait to get the candy out of the damn pantry. It drives me friggin' crazy. Got a little bit of a sweet tooth. Not looking forward to it. Some kid's going to come up, all so much thought into their costume. And one of my bets is going to hit right as they're walking into the driveway. And, look at this face. Scary looking to begin with. I'm going to jump out of my seat and scare the living crap out of somebody tomorrow. I cannot wait to see that scene. And it's been an absolutely incredible World Series. We'll get into some of the nuts and bolts here in just a second. But as customary on the program, let's take a look at some of the headlines. And my favorite new governor, Jeff Landry of the great state of Louisiana. He was on Pat McAfee's show this morning because maybe somebody got into his ear about what he said yesterday about the coaching search and called out essentially Jimmy Sexton, who is the agent for not only Lane Kiffin, but pretty much anybody else you'd want in that position, about Scott Woodward, the athletic director at LSU, and how poorly constructed Brian Kelly's contract was. Also, the same guy that poorly constructed Jimbo Fisher's contract at Texas A&M, which right now, if you ask Texas A&M people what they feel about Jimbo Fisher's buyout and what they had to pay to tell him to get the hell out of town, they don't care one bit. Mac talked about him last night. That Marcel Reed train, rolling. Absolutely rolling right now, our Texas A&M and the Aggies. This is something that really bugs me, though, as we get into this time of year, speaking of the Aggies. And I get it, there's bye weeks. Obviously, with what's going on with the coaching situation, the buyouts in general, all across sports, governors calling out agents. We're going to set a new patent. We're going to patent a new way of doing contracts. If you're a head coach, why do you want any part of that mess? And for personal vested interest, I will tell you, as a Gator fan, you know what? Somebody make sure there is a mic in front of Governor Jeff Landry's face at all times when he wants to talk college football on the bayou. Please. Because seemingly the more he talks, the less a coach is going to want to go there. Do I think coaching contracts are a little bit out of control? Yeah. Peter Burns from ESPN. We reposted it on our X page at Mike Arana Show. We talked about it last night specifically. Burns has a genius idea. And of course, I don't have it in front of me right this second. But essentially what it is $10 million the day you sign the coach. He gets $1 million salary a year, and then it's all incentivized from there. $500K for a win. I can't remember the exact number, but it's staggered. Essentially, let's put it this way. In Peter Burns' model of resetting the coaching precedent, the buyout is $10 million. Flat, doesn't matter who you are. Buyout's $10 million. You're incentivized to win. The school, the taxpayers, whatever the hell. I'm not going to get into that political nonsense. Never. This is our place to remove ourselves from that, the sports world. But essentially, if you go 16-0 in Peter Burns' model as a head coach, you can make $21 million. And I say good on you. Good on you. But I also say if Governor Landry in Louisiana wants to keep talking, that's fine. I am totally cool with that. I've stated my case. Lane Kiffin leaves Ole Miss for Florida and Florida only. That's what I believe. Will I be right? I don't know. Here's my other problem with what's going on in college football. As we get, it is statement weekend this weekend. You will hear us talk about this quite a bit on the program over our videos for this weekend and everything else. And especially next Tuesday when we go on, because next Tuesday is the time that our college football rankings, our rankings have been dropping for the last 5 weeks. Mac does a fantastic job contabulating. That's a word. We're going to make up words on this Thursday too. Tabulating our rankings, where TJ, myself, and Mac, we all rank our top 12 and what we think. I test watching all the games that we do. The official college football rankings drop next Tuesday. Here's my problem. These are the teams that are off this week. Texas A&M, Alabama, BYU, and Oregon. There's other teams off, but Missouri, we'll keep Missouri in the conversation here. Missouri's also off this weekend. Iowa, still an outside shot. They're off this weekend. Washington, hanging on by a thread. They're off this weekend. LSU is off this weekend. Not that they matter at this point, but why are all these teams off? And I get it, there's bye weeks, and the schedule is made the way it is, but really kind of sucks to have all those teams off. And the weekend before we drop the CFP rankings for the very first time, all these teams are off. I just don't like it. I don't think it's great for the sport. That being said, it is what it is. We do have some good games. I'll drop a college football Satur-Lay here in just a little bit, but speaking of other things in college football, the Rose Bowl and the city of Los Angeles are planning to sue UCLA for their alleged plan to move games from the Rose Bowl to SoFi Stadium. This is unbelievable. Everybody wants to chase profits. Nobody wants to abide by contracts anymore. According to the Los Angeles Times report from yesterday, the suit accuses UCLA of, quote, profoundly betraying trust by attempting to relocate its home games from the facility the Bruins have called home for 43 years, the Rose Bowl, to the home of the NFL's Los Angeles Rams and Chargers. The current lease with UCLA and the Rose Bowl runs through 2044. But the stadium is 26 miles away from UCLA's campus. The Rose Bowl is. TJ will actually be there next week. He might not find out the game time for next Saturday until Friday at midnight, but he will be there when Nebraska and UCLA tangle. Nebraska, Matt Rule, contract extension today. Congrats to him. Some people don't agree with it. The SoFi Stadium is about 12 miles from UCLA's campus, and we're talking about a capacity difference that's pretty sizable for a team in UCLA that, gets about 35,000 people in a stadium that holds 89,000. Well, the product's been crap. Now, again, 26 miles away from campus, and if you've been to the Rose Bowl, you're from the Southern California area, you get it makes a lot more sense for UCLA to be playing their games at SoFi Stadium. But now we're going to sue, because that's just what we do. We don't like something, we sue. It's unbelievable how much of this stuff is going on right now. News from the hockey world. TJ's mentioned this a couple times. Martin Necas of the Colorado Avalanche. He was going to get paid. Well, he got paid. 8-year extension for Necas in Colorado. And that Colorado team, you guys know, if you followed the show long enough, what I think of that Colorado team. 26 years old. The dude is fantastic, and they've locked him up for the foreseeable future. Big move there by the Avalanche. Also, as we move around the headlines in the sports world, the NCAA has penalized former Central Michigan coach Jim McElwain, and 3 others in the Connor Stallions case. That thing's still lingering on. Like moldy bread. Who cares? Let's move on with life. I mean, what do you got to do at Central Michigan to get busted for something like that? Apparently, whatever Jim McElwain did in allowing him to be on the sidelines. Just a freaking mess. Let's get to the World Series from last night. The Jays headed back to the 6 for Game 6 with a 3-2 lead. Why is that important to the city of Toronto? Well, the last 3 major championships that the city of Toronto has won, which obviously doesn't include the Maple Leafs, they were all won in Game 6. This Dodgers team has no answer right now for the pressure that's being put on them by the Blue Jays lineup. They also have no answer for Trey Savage. And we talked about it last night. 6 of the last 7 Game 5 winners have gone on to win the World Series. Historically, about 66% of those Game 5 winners have gone on to win the World Series. This dude is an animal. An absolute animal. Most strikeouts last night by a pitcher in a World Series game with no walks. Sarah Langs, the great Sarah Langs, on X with that one. Also, the most strikeouts ever by a rookie in the World Series. He struck out every batter in the Dodgers lineup last night at least one time. Mookie Betts, he got twice. This guy has more postseason starts than he has regular season starts. And it begs the question, why do we waste pitchers specifically in the minor leagues when they've got stuff that can strike out major league batters? The Blue Jays obviously played this perfectly. And I wonder if this is something that we see going forward. If you've got a guy like Trey Savage in your minor league system and you know he's ready to go, do you hold on to him until that last couple of weeks of the season? Let him get a couple of regular season games under his belt, and then there's not a lot of tape on this guy at the big league level going into the postseason? It's an interesting thought, because the Blue Jays have shown that this is it. Bo Bichette's not 100% healthy. George Springer, out, will be available. They got a chance. You saw him put a helmet on last night, and I'm sitting there watching, and I'm going, I get the situation. I understand why they might want to put a bat in his hands because he is so clutch in October. They didn't have to use him. So now he's got 3 days rest before he goes into Game 6. That place is going to be insanity tomorrow night, and I cannot wait to see it. We'll talk specifically about tomorrow night's matchup because it's an interesting one with Gausman and Yamamoto. We'll talk about that a little bit more tomorrow. For those wondering, his 12 strikeouts last night, the World Series record for strikeouts in a game, Bob Gibson was 17 in the 68 World Series. But this is a thing we talked about a lot. The length of the lineup for the Dodgers was something that we all kind of were wondering what we were going to get. So they made some tweaks last night. Alex Call goes into the game. Kike Hernandez moves to center field. Andy Paja is put on the bench with his 4 for 50 in the postseason. So those 7, 8, 9 spots in the order for the Dodgers have just been piss poor. And that's probably putting it nicely. Last night, what did they do? 1 for 8 with 1 stake and 1 run, which obviously came off the bat of Kike Hernandez with his home run. They're now 9 for 64 in the series, the 7, 8, 9 hitters in the Dodger lineup. 3 stakes, 4 runs scored, 20 strikeouts. They've only drawn 5 walks. And I get it. You get into a World Series, into a championship game, into the playoffs, whatever you want to say, depending on the sport we're talking about. You need your stars to be stars. Shohei Ohtani's been a star. Freddie Freeman with the walk-off home run. Mookie Betts has really struggled in this series. And it's just been a weird year for Betts. Goes all the way back to the beginning of the year when he was sick, lost all that weight. Came back in, really obviously helped the Dodgers get to this point. But the lack of depth and length, if you will, in this Dodgers lineup, we thought was going to be a problem, and we're seeing it happen. We also knew that the Dodgers bullpen was going to be a problem. And we're seeing that play its way out right in front of us. Most of the Dodgers lineup hasn't done a damn thing. Like I said, we know what Shohei's done. We know about Freddie's walk-off. But those guys at the bottom of the order, I think it's one of those things that often gets very much overlooked. You got one job at the bottom of the order. See pitches, flip the lineup over to the top, do what you got to do. And you could see it on Dave Roberts' face last night in the dugout. You could see the concern, like, they're up against it here. That being said, with Yamamoto on the mound tomorrow night, you got to like their chances in Game 6. And Gausman hasn't been terrible, but he hasn't been Yamamoto. But now the Dodgers are going to have to win 2 in Toronto in back-to-back nights if they want to take back-to-back World Series championships. I thought something was interesting last night. We talk about, you watch the game within the game a lot. Blake Snell was left out for 116 pitches last night. 6 2/3. And I thought that was a very cerebral move by Doc Roberts. And we know the success that the Dodgers have had, and he's been obviously a massive part of it. The 18-inning game on Monday night. That was just as important for the Dodgers in losing the game last night is how long he left Blake Snell out there to kind of reset everybody and kind of hopefully resuscitate this team going into now having to win 2 in a row to win the World Series. How does that play out? It's an underlying thing definitely to monitor because you would think, obviously, as we know in a Game 7, it's all hands on deck. Doc being Doc, that's something to pay attention to. I think the series does go to 7. I hope it does, because I bet it to go 7. And then I doubled down yesterday because one of the sports books still had it available where you could go Jays, Dodgers, Jays at 9-1, which I did yesterday. So I'm all in on this Blue Jays team. Doubled down on them. Game 6 has always been a great thing for the city of Toronto when it comes to winning championships. Maybe it's a good thing that so many of the good teams in college football are off on Saturday because Game 7, Saturday night, when we hit the 1st of November, do the Blue Jays bring another world championship back to Toronto? When do the Blue Jays bust out Joe Carter to throw the first pitch? Because you know it's coming. And Vladimir Guerrero, I don't think is getting any of the proper due for what he's done in this postseason. Mac mentioned it the other day. And maybe it was the contract. Who knows? But this dude's been on another level. The slide he had a couple nights ago at home plate when he just completely altered his body to get in there, scoring from first. I mean, this Blue Jays team has got every bit of the mojo that you would want any team to have going into, hey, you just got to win 1 or 2. I think it goes 7, but we'll get more into the nuts and bolts of that on tomorrow's program. Feel free to comment along if you're watching along. The college football weekend is going to be interesting, and as I mentioned, it is a statement weekend in college football. And it wouldn't be, there's teams on the borderline, teams on the fringe. I'm interested to see where BYU gets ranked in the college football playoff rankings. They're tied at the top of the Big 12 with Cincinnati. Cincinnati has a big road game at Rice-Eccles against Utah. That Big 12 is still pretty bunched up, jumbled up. And I think BYU is one of those teams that kind of gets hurt a little bit this weekend by not playing. But it's a prove-it weekend in college football, and that means it's time for a college football Satur-Lay. We're going to start with Georgia Tech, 5.5-point favorites on the road at NC State. And the thing I keep hearing about this Georgia Tech team, regression. It's got to come soon. It's got to come soon. It's got to come soon. Why? Haynes King is... we talk about it a lot with Vanderbilt, and I mentioned it the other day. I've seen Heisman projections by people with Diego Pavia as like the 5th guy in their Heisman projections. You look at Diego Pavia's passing numbers in SEC play, they're not Heisman worthy. I think right now, if you had to ask me today, pick a Heisman winner. It's Ty Simpson of Alabama, or it's Fernando Mendoza of Indiana. One of the two. Will that stay that way as we get down the rest of the season? I don't know. But Haynes King is the heartbeat of this Georgia Tech team. This is an interesting spot for the Jackets. Georgia Tech comes in 65th in adjusted EPA per play and 49th in net success rate. NC State, 51st and 25th in those two respective metrics. NC State's only allowing 4.4 yards a carry, and a lot of Georgia Tech's offense is based on the legs of Haynes King and what he does from the quarterback position. But I absolutely love this Georgia Tech team. And while it might seem like NC State is, quote, live for an upset here, do I think it's going to be an easy game for the Jackets? No. But I also think, knowing that the CFP rankings come out on Tuesday, which is also trade deadline day in the NFL, we'll get to that in a little bit. I think Georgia Tech will be dialed in. I think Georgia Tech knows exactly what's in front of them. Is it a tricky spot? Yes. But do I think that they're not going to be ready to play with knowing that they are in the driver's seat in the ACC? There's no way in hell this team's not ready to go. Not 100% dialed in, not 100% focused for this game. There's no way in hell that they're not. I really, really believe we're going to see Brent Key have this team dialed in. So I'm going to lay the 5.5 in that one with the Jackets on the road. It is a tricky spot, but I think they're going to be focused. Next game we're going to go to Texas. And maybe Texas against Vanderbilt without Arch Manning, which is interesting. Some people would say maybe this is the spot that Vandy puts Texas away. This Vandy team's got a lot of moxie too. I just talked about Haynes King and what he does for that Georgia Tech team. Obviously, Diego Pavia is the same thing. Do I think he's a Heisman? No. But is he the heartbeat of that team? Absolutely. Vandy's got all kinds of swagger, all kinds of stuff going on in this one. And I think this is going to be another fun one too. But what I really do think when I look at this game, and I've been bit plenty of times by this Texas team this year. Fool me once, fool me twice, maybe fool me a third time. But Vandy runs the football a lot. And they use a lot of man, inside zone, counter kind of concepts in the way they run their offense. Well, Texas's defense has been good against the run. They're not going to allow a lot of explosive plays off of the inside zone play, which is kind of the heartbeat of what Vanderbilt likes to do. I think Texas is live for an upset here, if you will. And it's not really an upset because when you look at it, they are 3.5-point favorites. Now, because I don't trust Texas whatsoever from an offensive standpoint, because they've just looked disjointed as all hell this year, I'm not going to lay 3.5 there. But I'm just not, I guess the easiest way to put it is I'm not a believer in this Vanderbilt team having staying power. I'm not. It's been a great story. It's been fun. If it's not Arch Manning under center because of the concussion, it's going to be Matthew Caldwell. He's a senior. He's got a lot of experience. He's been around. I like Texas on the money line. Again, call me a fool. Maybe. That one might bite me in the ass. I just don't think this Vandy team is as good as they look right now. And this is a weird spot for them. Texas knows if they've got any shot, they have to have this game. Because when you look what's coming up for Texas, at Georgia, Arkansas, and of course the big one at the end of the season against Texas A&M. So at 6-2 are the Longhorns. Somehow lost to Florida. And then obviously we all know about week 1 against Ohio State. At 6-2, if you knock off Vanderbilt, maybe you can find a way to knock off Georgia. Or just play a good game against Georgia. And then anything goes in a rivalry game. And I don't think a lot of people remember how much just deep-rooted hatred there is between Texas and Texas A&M. You know Texas would love to crush Texas A&M and their dreams of a perfect season. And it's entirely possible that they get that opportunity. Because as we know, with Texas A&M's schedule, they're at Missouri next, then they're home for South Carolina, then they have Samford in the SEC's late season cupcake tune-up game, and then that game at Texas. So I like Texas as the second part of the Satur-Lay on the money line to upset Vanderbilt. And then, of course, we're going here. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party, even though you're not technically supposed to call it that, Georgia and Florida. Interesting stuff here. As you all know, Florida coming in with interim coach Billy Gonzalez now because Billy Napier was let go. They've been off, as Georgia has. Customary for this rivalry. I think there's two things that happen in this game, and I'm going to play both of these things in this game. Number one, we've seen Georgia all season long. Been very, very sluggish in first halves. Very, very sluggish coming out of the gates in the first quarter. I think the Florida team comes in wanting to prove that they might not have played to expectations. They're better than what they've put out on the table. One of the better rivalries in all of college football. So I'm going to play Florida plus 2.5 in the first quarter because of what Georgia's put down in front of us. Georgia's not a team that comes out of the gates very good, very fast. They can pour it on you. They'll pour it on you in the second half. And I think this Florida team comes out with a little bit of a chip. A little bit of maybe a renewed moxie. Some of these guys, hey, we let Coach Napier down. We didn't perform. Also think the offense was, again, like I said all season long, rage coloring with crayons in the lack of creativity. I think Florida takes some big play opportunities, tries to take some shots. Like the Gators in the first quarter. That being said, and I don't think there's a big separation with these two teams in talent. I really don't. What I think is you have a well-oiled machine and a well-run organization at Georgia, and you have a team in Florida who over the last 5 years organizationally has just been a kind of a disaster. But there is talent there. There is immense talent on that team. The Florida defense has played really, really good all season long. So if you're dealing with equal talent, you have to look at the intangibles. In a well-oiled machine that Georgia is, organizationally from top to bottom, and how they go about things and how they scheme and how they put together game plans. Florida gets them, stays within reach in the first quarter, maybe even the first half. And then the second half happens, and Georgia runs away. So the second play from this game is Georgia covers the 7-point spread. So if you're thinking about it, and as we say all the time, play them straight, play them together, that's up to you. I've got some friends out there, all they want to do is parlay things, and that's fine. Whatever floats your boat. So if you wanted to play them together, I put this together, and I'm not even going to lie to you, I threw $2.50 on this. There's the Satur-Lay play, and I'm going to move it over here just a little bit. Whoops. If I can click the right button. 1852. Texas on the money line, Georgia Tech covering the 5.5 on the road at NC State. I like the Gators in the first quarter, but I like the Dogs for the game. Again, when you've got equal talent, and I do, you can read box scores, you can look at records, and you can go, well, that's not equal talent. Florida's terrible. No, Florida's scheme and the way they've run things has been terrible, which is what cost Billy Napier his job. And that's all right. Pretty sure a guy with a visor is going to be the next HBC. And I'm going to tell you right now, if it's not, Florida fans are going to lose their ever-loving minds. I think the only job Lane Kiffin leaves Ole Miss for is Florida. I could be wrong. It's been the job that he's always wanted. He idolizes Steve Spurrier. There's a lot of family dynamics in Lane Kiffin getting a job in Florida as well. You've got equal talent on the field, cohesive unit, well-run organization versus equal talent and kind of a disaster zone, which the Gators have been. That's it. So Florida plus 2.5 in the first half, Georgia to cover the spread in the game. We've got Thursday night football tonight from South Beach and the return of Lamar Jackson tonight. Miami won their Super Bowl, if you will, last week in absolutely flattening the you want to talk about teams that are absolutely a disaster zone? Who are the Atlanta Falcons? 34-10 at home. You lose to a Dolphins team. Speaking of not well-run organizations that are not cohesive, that have some talent on them, I think there's definitely a talent deficiency in Miami. I know Miami said they won't fire Mike McDaniel. They have no intention on making a change. I think we all know that Mike McDaniel will not be the coach of the Dolphins next year. I'll be surprised if he's still the head coach of the Dolphins at the end of the year, but according to what they say out there in South Beach, he's going to be. But I don't take any stock into, maybe the Dolphins, maybe now they're going to rally. No, the Falcons are 3-4 and might be the most Jekyll and Hyde team in all of the NFL last week. So I don't take anything out of that. For the Ravens, I've made this point perfectly clear. I think with what the Ravens have in front of them and what we saw the Steelers put out there, Max talked about this all year, there's something fundamentally wrong with this Steelers defense. We know the Bengals aren't a threat. We know the Browns aren't a threat. This Ravens team has a paved road ahead of them. Dolphins, then Vikings, and Browns, Jets, Bengals, Steelers, Bengals. The end of the season is tricky. I will say this for Baltimore. But if you let a team in Baltimore with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson start to get some momentum, and when you're talking about momentum, we're talking about a 6-game stretch here before the tricky part of their schedule comes in. What is that? Patriots on December 21st in Baltimore. Then they're at Green Bay and they're at Pittsburgh to end the season. But until then, I don't see anything but winnable games. And until the Steelers fix their defense and figure out what the hell's going on there, that game in there with the Steelers is another game that I expect Baltimore to win. It's in Baltimore. Obviously, as we know, it's a coin flip between the Ravens and the Steelers a lot of the time. But tonight, we get Lamar Jackson back in the fold for the Ravens. Interesting quarterback matchup here. You know, everybody's made a lot this year about Derrick Henry and just his subpar for Derrick Henry year. Well, Lamar Jackson's only played 4 games. Part of what makes Derrick Henry so damn effective is having Lamar Jackson on the field. I think this game is going to be absolutely ridiculously brutal tonight. I think we're looking at a bloodbath here. Ravens right now 7.5-point favorites in this game. And I'm going to mess around a little bit tonight. And I'm going to play around with this one a little bit because I think not only do they cover the 7.5, I think they might cover 2 touchdowns tonight. The jolt of getting Lamar Jackson back is going to be huge. The over-under 51.5. A lot of people pounding the over in this game. I don't know if I love the over because I don't know if I trust the Dolphins to contribute a ton to that over. I think we're looking at a game that is going to be insanely one-sided tonight. Tua 1,518 yards, 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. It's not like it's a raucous environment at a Hard Rock Stadium. And Lamar Jackson being back and healthy. And it's a very smart spot for Baltimore to bring him back because it's a Thursday night game and then you get that long extended break. So if there's any lingering effects from the injury for Lamar, you've got plenty of time to do it. And I think when we look back at the season, we talked about this from the Bears standpoint last night a little bit. You know, if the Bears make the playoffs, TJ has to wear a Caleb Williams jersey. Mac and I have it literally sitting in our carts on NFLshop.com. But Tyler Huntley goes out and does a very good job last week. 17 of 22 for 186 yards. A touchdown, no picks. Also added 53 yards on the ground last week. And they get a big win against a Bears team that a lot of people thought the Bears were going to be able to pull that off. So as I said last night on the program, we could look back at the end of the season and that game that the Bears lost to the Ravens without Lamar Jackson could be the game that might keep the Bears out of the playoffs. Obviously, the Bears have a lot of work to do, but if you look at the layout of the NFC standings, where do the Bears sit right now? 1 game out of a playoff spot, behind the 49ers. On the flip side for Baltimore, stealing that win and getting them to 2-5, we could look back at the end of the year and go, that game that Tyler Huntley was able to beat Chicago is why the Ravens are in the playoffs. I think the Ravens win the division. And now that they got Lamar Jackson back, I think you're going to see an absolute ass-kicking tonight in South Florida. So, Baltimore minus 7.5 is the first play on the triple threat, the triple option for Thursday Night Football. The second one, Derrick Henry, over 89.5 yards. Again, as I just mentioned, Lamar Jackson being back on the field, I think is the thing that gets Derrick Henry back rolling again. Because those two together, you never know who's going where. You've got to watch. You've got to account for both of them. It's a Miami defense that's not very good. I think Derrick Henry has a monster game tonight. And the cool thing with Derrick Henry's number being at 89.5, as we all know, All it takes for Derrick Henry is ripping one off. Just one. Ask the Bills about that. Another thing I like tonight, sneaky play. And there is one betting site out there that has a touchdown jackpot thing that they've been doing all year. Bet on your guy to score the first touchdown. If he does, you get a share of $1 million in bonus bets. If you get lucky and he's the guy that gets the first and the last touchdown, you get a share of $1 million in bonus bets on the first touchdown and the second touchdown. And we saw him last week kind of get in the mix a little bit, even with Derrick Henry having a pretty good game last week. He had 71 yards. He had 2 touchdowns, only 3.4 yards to carry. And again, I think the Lamar Jackson factor boosts that for Baltimore. But Keaton Mitchell, I love Keaton Mitchell for a touchdown tonight. And John Harbaugh came out and said, we've got to be able to utilize him and keep him more involved. I absolutely love, especially at the number, I don't know where it's at right now, but I absolutely love Keaton Mitchell. When I looked last night, plus 750 to score a touchdown. I think Mitchell gives them something that Justice Hill doesn't in the running game, gives them a chance to spell Derrick Henry. I really, really like the proposition of Keaton Mitchell scoring a touchdown tonight for the Ravens. So those are the 3. Ravens minus 7.5, Derrick Henry over 89.5, and Keaton Mitchell to find the end zone. Some other things of note in the NFL before we get on out of here for the day. Again, the NFL trade deadline is on Tuesday. I don't think there's a lot of people that are sitting here thinking we're going to see this massive lot of player movement. We've seen a couple of small moves already. The 49ers make a trade with the Patriots to try and get some defensive line help that they desperately need. The Patriots also sent Kyle Duggar to the Steelers. Desperately needed safety help. John Mechie traded to the Jets. I don't think we're going to see you're going to see a lot of people in the next 72 hours throw out all these big name trades. I think there's a possibility you see Trey Hendrickson get traded from Cincinnati. Outside of that, I don't really think there's going to be a whole lot. Myles Garrett now wants out again after he didn't want out because he just wanted his extension, and now he wants out of Cleveland. It's like he just figured out the Browns suck. Not really sure where he's going. The Cardinals for Monday Night Football are prepping Kyler Murray to start against the Cowboys. I get it. You're paying a guy a lot of money like you are Kyler Murray. But the offenses look just fine without him, running the same offense. Another interesting thing I saw today as far as the NFL goes, Lions offensive coordinator John Morton says he's, quote, failed Jameson Williams in terms of getting the wide receiver involved enough in the team's prolific offense. Well, thanks, John. A lot of us have been waiting for that because Jameson Williams, much like Jahmyr Gibbs in Detroit, is a home run hitter. And he's been basically a non-factor. So something to keep your eye on when it comes to the Lions there. And if Jameson Williams gets involved with the Lions offense, that just makes the Lions that much more dangerous. Speaking of the Lions, Aiden Hutchinson, 4-year, $180 million extension. What do? How do you build a good organization in the NFL? Well, you build it up the middle, offensively and defensively, and you sign your homegrown talent. So well-deserved, well-earned from Aiden Hutchinson. The Lions ain't going anywhere anytime soon. Lots of stuff to talk about. Again, tomorrow we'll get more into the specifics about Game 6 of the World Series from Toronto. The Blue Jays having 2 opportunities to claim a world championship, a, quote, piece of metal, if you remember Rob Manfred and that genius comment. We're also going to take a look at a couple more of these Power 4 jobs and see if there's any movement, some of the latest news and rumors, whatnot. We'll recap Thursday Night Football, which I'm expecting to recap an absolute bloodbath. And this Ravens team is winning the AFC North. because I think this team is about to turn into a freight train. And that's not good news for anybody. This AFC playoff picture is going to take some interesting shape over these next couple of weeks. Obviously, the big one Sunday in Buffalo, Kansas City in Buffalo. Kansas City favored in Buffalo. We know the history of those two teams. But we're looking at this layout of this AFC. We've got the Patriots one game behind the Colts, as are the Broncos. The Steelers at 4-3. And you go all the way down to the 12 spot. The Ravens at 2-5 are only 2 games behind the Steelers at the top of the North. It's going to happen. I hate it because at the beginning of the year, I picked the Steelers to win the North. But that defense, there is something fundamentally wrong with that defense. And I got to give Matt credit because he's been saying it for 3 or 4 weeks now, even before it really kind of came to light. And we bust Max chops a lot. He is the doctor of reverse psychology on the show. He doesn't like to bet on his own teams because he thinks it jinxes him. But as much as we bust his chops, he was all over that one. And you look at these teams that are right ahead of the Ravens. Technically the Raiders. Nah, that's not going to happen. The Bengals, not worried about that one. The Texans, not worried about that one. The Jaguars, not worried about that one. The road was paved for Pittsburgh, and they allowed Baltimore to hang around just long enough. I think Baltimore makes a huge statement tonight and a huge step into taking the AFC North. So plenty of stuff tonight. Enjoy the night. So many things going on. We're going to talk a little NBA tomorrow. We've got some interesting starts to the season. For one, Nikola Jokic and Austin Reeves. The Lakers did everything they wanted to try and do to blow a game last night, and Austin Reeves was the hero. A lot of things coming down the pike. This is a hell of a time to be a sports fan. So follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show. Again, everywhere but Snapchat, because we're not 12 and Snapchat sucks. For everybody behind the scenes, for my 2 co-pilots, TJ and Vegas Mac, I'm Mike. We'll talk to you tomorrow.